The
need for a more interconnected world is fueling new decentralized technologies and new ways of doing business. Hedera stands at the forefront of distributed ledgers, where every interaction is not only trusted, but fast, efficient, and secure. While traditional blockchains struggle with speed and fees, Hedera's network settles transactions in under 3 seconds for a fraction of a penny. And the proof is in the numbers. Hedera is uniquely governed by a council of the world's leading institutions, ensuring transparency, trust, and decentralization. It's no wonder Hedera is the leading choice for enterprise and DeFi use cases. Everything from real-world asset tokenization to AI data integrity. Discover the only decentralized network with the governance, scalability, and security to power the new digital economy. What future will you build?
Welcome everyone to this month's Hedera Technical Community Call. I'm really excited for this one today. We've got an amazing set of guests and a really exciting agenda. So what we're going to be covering today, we're going to be covering the new Hedera command line interface or CLI tool. That's going to be with Michiel, one of my colleagues at Hashgraph. We're also going to be looking at a deep dive inside Bonzo Finance. So for those of you, as Gaurang will explain in much more detail, but on a very high level, Bonzo is the leading borrowing and lending protocol based on the Aave smart contracts in the Hedera ecosystem. And then finally, how you can leverage NA10 for workflow automation with a Hedera twist on it. That's going to be with a really key ecosystem member, Milan. Milan and I, I'll just say we go way back. We met each other in Gomin about 3 years ago now. So yeah, Milan, I'm really excited for your bit too. And obviously, low code, no code is a really massive emerging trend. Again, Milan, when I met him at Gomin 3 years ago, he was bloody using it back then. So he was really setting the trend. If you look at the usage of it now, it's just going through the roof. But Milan will give us far more information on that. So I guess without further ado, Michiel, do you wanna give us a little breakdown about the CLI tool?
Yeah, I'll dive right into it. Can I present my screen? Yeah, there we go.
It's sharing now. We can see the Hedera CLI tool PowerPoint.
Cool. So yeah, I would love to introduce the Hedera CLI tool. It's a pre-release version of the CLI tool, so it's not in a final state, but it's good enough for the community to start using it. And I would love to present it to collect any kind of feedback. So to give a bit of background, the CLI tool, it simplifies your environment management. So you can easily set up and manage test environments quickly without needing any kind of complex configurations. It also integrates with your CI/CD pipeline. So if you already have a pipeline, you can use the pipeline to set up like all kinds of accounts, tokens, smart contracts, do some of the interactions. And it will enable you to automate your testing scenarios. And then lastly, these testing scenarios, you can integrate with the Hedera token service, Hedera consensus service, Hedera smart contract service. So everything is supported for now. And this actually eliminates like the need for like having multiple scripts to manage your environments. You need to manually copy account IDs and all kinds of private keys between these scripts, which is really annoying. So the CLI tool tries to remove this pain point from testing and running test environments on Hedera. So we should be using the CLI tool. There's actually a lot of personas that fit the CLI tool. So for example, the first one is just people that like to automate actions on Hedera, like account creation, token management, handling transactions. All of this can be done through the CLI tool. But then also we have Hedera projects. They need end-to-end testing environments, continuous integration pipelines. So any kind of project on Hedera can use the CLI tool. The CLI tool integrates actually with both testnet, mainnet, and previewnet, but it also works with the local net. So you can just switch within the tool with a single command to the testnet or the local node. You can execute on the local node and go back to the testnet and try it out there. So it's very interoperable. And finally, it also works very well for like explorers and newcomers. So for example, you're new to Hedera and you want to experiment a bit with the technology, but you don't really want to set up all the code directly and dive into the technical details. You can actually just run the CLI tool and just play with the commands, create accounts, and just see what's possible. It allows for like a bit more early exploration instead of having to write a lot of the code and really understanding the inner mechanics of it. So I want to introduce you to a couple of the key features. The first one is account and token management. You can see a couple of the example commands on the screen. So for example, the command line supports creating accounts. You can set an alias, you can set a balance for the account, you can specify the type. The alias is not the alias that's like Hedera specific, where you set an alias for your account. It's more of an alias to reference an account within the CLI tool. So instead of like having to copy an account ID to the different commands, you can just reference it by saying, I want to use Alice, her account, and the CLI will figure out to pick the private key or the account ID from the CLI. So as you can see in the next command, we're actually creating a new token. We set all kinds of properties like the name, the symbol, the decimals. And then we can actually say, oh, the admin key, we want Alice to be the admin key on the token. And the treasury key, I want to be Bob, use Bob's key as the treasury key. So you can already see how you can start integrating these commands and how everything is like interoperable. Then there's the integration with the Hedera consensus service. There are not a lot of commands here. You can create topics. You can set a submit key and the admin key for a topic. You can submit messages. And there is also a command to find messages. You can filter by the sequence number. There is actually a couple more filters available. You can say greater than, lower than, equal, not equal. So all of the filters that are often possible within the mirror node are also supported in the CLI tool. And then we get to the smart contract integration. So we decided to use Hardhat for the smart contract integration. So you can just write your scripts as you would normally do, and you can execute them with the npx Hardhat run command. So you specify your the script location, and then you can say like, I want to execute it on local, which means local net or testnet or any kind of network. And then if you go a bit deeper, you can see it's just like the regular code. You call the contract factory, you call the deploy function on it, it will deploy. But then there is an extra function to say in this script where we actually store the address of the contract that we just deployed in our CLI state. And this will be later used for our script blocks, which is the next feature that I want to show you. So script blocks is like one of the key features of the CLI tool. It allows you to build like automated sequences by chaining multiple commands. And it actually allows you to like streamline your environment setup or like do complex operations. And then you have the possibility for each command to store the outputs. Like it can be a token ID, it can be private keys, it can be any other variable that you want to store, which you can then later reference in other commands. And the screenshot shows for the different commands, the ones that support outputs, which variables you can store. So for account create, you can store the alias, the account ID, the type, all kinds of things. For topic create, you can store the topic ID. And then if you go to the next slide, you can see how to use these outputs and inputs. So for example, this script will first say, let's use the testnet. Then I want to create 3 different accounts. I give the name Alice, Bob, and Greg. And for each of these accounts, I specify the --args argument. And here you can say, I want to store the private key in a variable name called private key account 1. And the same for alias account 1. Account ID becomes ID account 1. And we do it for all of the different accounts. So what's happening here is we're now creating a new token. And I say, I want to reference the private key of account 1 that I just created earlier. And I want to set this as the admin key. The treasury ID I want to set to account 2. And the same for the treasury key. We set it to account 2. And for this token create command, I want to save the token ID so we can reference it later. And then in the next command, we can say, I want to associate the third account we created to the new token that I just created. So you can see we're starting to build these chained commands where we are referencing different kinds of arguments and storing also the arguments as outputs. Then we can call the token transfer command. We say, I want to transfer 1 unit of this token ID, the token we just created, from the treasury key, which is account 2, to the account 3, which is just associated with our token. Then we wait for 3 seconds. This is necessary because it takes 2.5 seconds on average to confirm a transaction. And then we can query the account balance, and we can check for account 3 if it actually received a unit for the specific token ID. And finally, I've added the state command where you can actually inspect the state of the CLI tool itself. So this allows you to verify if the token ID is actually present within the state of the CLI tool. And this is like one example of like these chain commands where you can automate like complex logic and create just a simple script which you can load and execute. So let's take a look at a demo. So you can just clone the project locally, and then we can start interacting with it. So the first thing after cloning a repository, you need to provide like the env key, your operator key for each of the networks you want to support. And then we can call the HCLI setup init command, which will set up all of the different accounts. I have now used a demo account, so this is a throwaway private key, which I'll remove after the call. I will roll it out. So you can see it set up the testnet operator, but it also set up the local net operator. So we can now interact both from the CLI tool with the local node that's running on my machine, and also the testnet. And then let's take a look at the script. So we don't have any scripts at the moment. So we can grab one of the scripts from the demo state here. So for example, this is the script that we just showed. And let me also grab this one first. Let's paste it in the active state of the CLI. And then I also want another one where I show you how to use hardhat scripts. So let's paste both in. And now we can execute the script by telling the CLI tool to load the script with the name token. So it will start running all of the commands one by one. You can see random alias accounts are being created. So the 3 accounts are being created. You can see within, it goes a little bit faster, the token is being created. There we go. And now it's querying the balance. So if we roll back a little bit, you can see what actually happened. So we created the 3 different accounts. Then we create the token. The token ID has been stored. We associated the token. Then we have transferred it. We waited for 3 seconds, and we verified if the balance for the account was actually 1. So the user has received 1 unit of the token. And then finally, I requested the state from the CLI itself. So I wanted to see the state for the specific token ID. And as we can see, all of the details for this token have been loaded and are actually present in here. You can also see it here. So this is the state for the CLI itself. So you can see that the token here is also loaded. Now, let's execute the other command as well. So the other script block is the ERC721. So this script will deploy an ERC721 token on the local node. Then we will mint 1 unit of the local of this script, of this token, and we will verify the balance. If we take a look at these scripts, this is the Solidity file we're deploying. This is the line that I called out earlier. So in order to enable communication between the scripts and the CLI tool, we tell the hardhat script to store our ERC721 address. And then if we go to the mint.js script, where we actually mint 1 unit of this new ERC721 token, you can see that we again use the getScript argument function to retrieve the address which you have just stored in our CLI tool. So this way we can start communicating between the different hardhat scripts, store the data in our CLI tool, and also all of the other commands like account creation, or they can also use all of these variables that are outputted by the hardhat scripts. So let's run this final script. Oh shit, now I messed up here. Script. And now let's run the ERC721. So this one will execute now on the local node because we specified local network. So it deployed our contract here. we're minting a new token. The token has been minted, and we verified on the local node that this account actually has a balance of 1 NFT of the newly minted token. So that was it for my demo. It showed briefly a lot of the features that we can do. There's a lot more functionality, a lot more commands, but these are like the most powerful features for the CLI tool. And in case you have any feedback, you loved what you saw, you can go to the repository at hashgraph/Hedera CLI. You can open an issue, or you can just drop any kind of feedback within the Discord server that we have, and I'll pick it up and let's see where we get. So this is an open call to anyone to provide feedback and to improve the tool for the future. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Michiel. I thought that demo was super interesting. And what I do want to say to everybody watching, ask questions. We're going to have a Q&A section at the end. So please, if you've got any questions for Michiel, we'll come back to it at the end. Please definitely ask questions. Also, of course, head over to this link, https://github.com/hashgraph/HederaCLI. This is where you'll be able to help Michiel and the rest of the team have been building out the CLI tool to actually improve it, test it out. I guess we heard, obviously, I hope we get some questions from the audience by the end, and I think we've already got some lined up, which again we'll do at the end. But just a couple of questions I've got for you now. What would be sort of the where would a developer prefer to maybe use the CLI to create these workflows than writing JavaScript code or something like that?
Well, I always used to create like all these JavaScript scripts where I would like create an account, copy the ID, paste it again in another script, and I had like this library of like 10, 15 scripts that did like token creation, association, like all these things. But often I need to like do more complex operations where I create like these accounts, create a token, set admin keys. And I always made mistakes when doing these kind of things, miscopying things, pasting it in the wrong format. And this just allows me, this was like my pain point, and this allowed me to start automating a lot of my tasks and just do it error-prone, error-free, bug-free. It just simplified working with Hedera and also like switching quickly between the different networks, which makes it very, very helpful. Yeah, totally understand. I think I'm going to add an issue, which is going to be we need to get some LLM documentation so that we have a large language model, query it, and be able to spin up these really robust CLI scripts. I think that would be a really good implementation. That would be amazing.
That's me with my AI hat on. Anyway,
sure,
I think right. Should we head over then back to the agenda? I think we've got Gaurang up next. Gaurang, do you want to give a quick introduction about yourself, about Bonzo Finance, and then we can get into your presentation as well.
Sure, absolutely. Actually, I have a slide where I introduce myself and Bonzo, so I'll just get into the slides directly. Cool. So let me share my screen.
There we go.
Can you see it now?
Coming up then. It's almost there.
And let me share again.
Yeah, just try it again. There we go. That's right. I'll bring it up. There we go. Should be.
Is it okay now?
I can see it in the stage. Is someone able to put it up? There we go. Amazing. All right, Gaurang, over to you, please.
Cool. Great. Thank you, Jake. So hi, everyone. I'm Gaurang from Bonso. And Bonzo, we like to call ourselves the liquidity layer of Hedera. And why do we say that? I'll go into that, into more details about that later. So yeah, just to introduce myself, I'm Gaurang. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Bonzo Finance. I have a master's in applied information systems, so I'm a software developer by background. I've been working on Ethereum blockchain and smart contracts for more than 8 years. So my proficiency, I'm proficient in Solidity and JavaScript. I and Brady, we started this project last year. So most of you might know Brady. He has been one of the core members of the ecosystem, and he also used to work at Hedera previously when it was called World Apps. And apart from that, he also has worked at database companies. So he has a lot of experience in distributed systems, security, open source dev communities. Cool. Bonzo, what is Bonzo? Bonzo is the liquidity layer of Hedera. So, we started off as a lending and borrowing protocol on Hedera, but I think Bonzo is growing beyond that. So now, and as we move forward, Bonzo won't be just a lending and borrowing protocol, but Bonzo will have multiple other products as well. So the other products are Bonso Vaults, which is based on Beefy. So this is for automating your yield and increasing your yield strategies. And the other pillar of Bonzo will be Bonso Bridge, which will be based on the layer 0 OFT contracts. So again, I'll be going into the details about all these things as we go along today. Cool. So let's start with Ponzo Lend, which is the decentralized lending and borrowing protocol. So last year when we started the project, we forked the Aave v2 code base, and we had to make some changes to that. So that's how Ponzo Lend started. So for those of you who haven't used Ponzo, this is how it looks like on the dashboard, the main screen. So what you see on the screen here are my supplied positions and borrowed positions. So I have supplied HBAR worth $17, which was $17 yesterday, and I have borrowed USDC worth $9. So because of that, if you look at this nice little bar, you can see that my loan to value ratio is at 53%. So a lot of you might be familiar with the term loan to value, which is essentially how much you have borrowed against your loan. So as you might know,
just to jump in there, are you able to put this into the slideshow mode so it's a bit bigger for the audience?
Oh yes. Okay, sure.
Yes. You're on time. This is amazing. Perfect.
Cool. Yeah, as most of you might know, loan to value is the ratio of your loans against your collateral, and Bonzo and Aave are over collateralized protocols. So you have to have your collateral more than your borrows, right? And there are two important metrics here called the health factor and the loan to value ratio. So all these things are being pulled on chain. So they are being pulled from the smart contracts directly. So these are your individual positions, right? So your maximum loan to value ratio based on the assets that you're supplied is 62%, right? And right now you're at 53%. And the health factor essentially denotes the variance between your loan to value versus your max loan to value. So when your health factor goes below 1, then you're eligible to be liquidated. So you might get liquidated if your health factor goes below 1. Then let's get into more details about how the assets are configured and how the contracts actually store the values for these assets. So let's look at an asset like USDC. So this is the individual asset analytics page. You see a lot of things here. The first and most important thing is the supply and borrow APY. So these are the interest rates on the USDC asset. As you might see here, the interest rates keep changing after every transaction. So these are dynamic. So whenever someone supplies or borrows USDC on Bonzo, the interest rate changes slightly. And you can see it has been changing quite drastically over the last few days. And another important thing here is total supplied versus total borrowed. So as you can see, total $4.6 million of USDC has been supplied versus total 2.5 million USDC has been borrowed on Bonzo. And these figures, total supplied versus total borrowed, are very important because they determine something that we call as the utilization rate. So in this case, we are not talking about your own personal position, but we are talking about the USDC asset as a whole, right? So as we saw here, USDC has a total of 4.6 million supplied and 2.5 million borrowed. So the current utilization rate for USDC is around 54.9%. Now, you can see this line here. This current utilization rate currently is above the optimal utilization rate. And what is the optimal utilization rate? So optimal utilization rate is the point where your borrow APY starts to go up very drastically. So as you can see, there are two lines here. The first one is the blue line, which is called slope 1 in the algorithm, and the second line is called slope 2. So the slope 1, as you can see, it increases very gradually, right? It goes from 0 to 12%. But the slope 2, it goes up very drastically. So it goes from 12% to 200%. And this is done on purpose, because for any asset on Bonzo, we don't want the asset to be borrowed up to 100%. Because if the asset gets borrowed up to 100%, then people won't be able to withdraw. And that's why Avi has come up with this mechanism where the slope 2 goes up really drastically. So let's say when the utilization of USDC goes up to 84 or 90%, the APY might go up to 150%. And that's very high, right? And that's where the market dynamics come into play. So when your APY goes so high, then people start repaying their loans. And this has actually happened with us once. So Karate Combat is one of the assets on Bonzo. And when we had one of the Karate Combat matches, people were borrowing a lot of Karate to put them on the system. So the utilization for Karate on that day had gone close to 100% for a few minutes. So it was, I think, close to like 98, 97, 98%. And that's why the APY for Karate shot up to 150%. And because of that, what happened is people saw that they started, yelling on Discord, they started yelling on Twitter, but people went and repaid their loans. And that's exactly how the system is supposed to behave. And all of this is actually baked into the smart contract. So the smart contracts are really powerful and really cool. All of this is baked into the smart contracts. These APYs, they keep changing dynamically, as I said. And it works. So let's look at some numbers for Bonzo, some statistics. So on Bonzo, currently we have 13 HTS assets supported. We're supporting 13 tokens, and we have plans to add more tokens as we go along in the short term and long term future. We have more than $36 million TVL, $36 million locked on Bonzo. And out of that, $8 million have been borrowed. And I would say this is one of the best stats I love about Bonzo is until now, in the last, let's say, 8 to 9 months, we have generated close to $1 million in annualized fees. And I'm really proud to say that Bonzo and Saucer Swap are the highest revenue generating protocols on Hedera at this point of time. I'm really proud to say that. So, when we say retail pays the bill, we really mean that. Great. So now let's get into the architecture of Bonzo. I won't go into all the architectures because there's a lot of contracts. We have a suite of like 50, 60 contracts. But let's get to the crux of it, right? So what happens when you deposit an asset or when you supply an asset on Bonzo, right? So let's say you have this user who is who wants to deposit something in the lending pool contract. So each of these is a contract, a smart contract. So the user will approve their HTS token, and then they will call the function deposit on the lending pool. The lending pool in turn will transfer from the token, the USDC token in this case, to the A token contract. So this is called AUSDC, which is the representation of your supplied asset, right? So when you supply your USDC token, you get back a USDC token, right? So what happens is your USDC tokens, they go into the contracts, and in turn you get a USDC tokens. They are minted in this contract, and at the same time, this AUSDC contract also calls a function called handle action. So if you go to the Bonso dashboard, you will see that some assets, some tokens, they have some reward APYs on them, right? So for example, GREL, KPL, Bonso tokens, these tokens, we have incentive rewards for borrowing and supplying. So you have your supply APY, and additionally, you have some incentive rewards on that, on top of that. And these rewards, they come from this another module called staking module. And this is the contract in there. It's called incentives controller contract. So whenever you deposit your tokens, this AUSDC token, AUSDC contract, it will call the handle action function in the incentives controller contract. And immediately, from that point on, it will start accruing rewards for your user account, right? So let's say you come to the platform next day, you'll see that okay, you're eligible to claim, let's say, 10 Bonzo in rewards based on how much you supplied, for example, right? And then you can call the claim rewards function on the incentives controller contract directly, and it sends you back your Bonzo tokens as rewards. And the same flow, it happens in reverse when you're borrowing something. Or not reverse exactly, but so essentially you call the borrow function on lending pool. It will in turn transfer the tokens from this BUSDC contract to the user. So it happens in reverse. But that contract will also call the handle action function on incentives controller, and it will start accruing rewards for your account. And yeah, so now I want to touch on two technical concepts on Bonzo Finance in the whole architecture. The first one is called flash loans. Some of you might know about flash loans, but some of you might not. So for them, flash loans was a very novel concept which was introduced by Avi. And this is a really cool concept in that all the transactions in a flash loan happen in an atomic fashion, and they have to happen in the same block. So all these transactions, even if one of the transaction fails, the entire chain is reversed. So what is a flash loan? So let's say you want to do some arbitrage on Saucer Swap, or let's say you want to run a liquidation bot on Bonzo, and you want some funds for that. So what you can do is you can actually borrow some funds from Bonzo protocol. So you call the flash loan function. This flash loan function takes a number of arguments. One of the arguments is the amount that you want to borrow. So let's say you want to borrow 1,000 USDC. You call the flash loan with 1,000 USDC amount. It will loan you that amount, right? But what you need to do is you need to pay back that loan in the same transaction. And when you pay back, you have to pay some interest on that, obviously. But between these two actions, so think about it like this, right? So you get the loan and you pay it back. But between these two actions, you can do anything that you want with that money. So in those between that, you can liquidate someone's loan on Bonzo. You can go to Saucer Swap. You can do some swaps there. You can do some arbitrage there. You can go to Stater Labs. You can stake your Wiercx. You can do a bunch of things between these two transactions. But all of these things need to happen in the same block. And if your transaction on Saucer Swap fails, this whole chain gets reversed and none of it goes through. And that is the beauty of flash loans. And as I said, flash loans are utilized also for liquidation bots. So this is an open call to the community and to the developers on this call to please come and run liquidation bots on Bonzo. We already have a number of liquidation bots running. And these bots are used to monitor your health factor. So earlier I showed you the health factor, which is based on the loan to value ratio. When your health factor goes below 1, you are eligible to be liquidated, right? Or you're prone to be liquidated. But the smart contract cannot liquidate you on your own because smart contract cannot take actions on its own. So someone has to trigger that liquidation function. So these liquidation bots, so people who are running these liquidation bots, they are constantly monitoring the health factor of all the suppliers on Bonzo. And whenever someone's health factor goes below 1, they immediately call the liquidation function and they repay their loan. So in my case, my health factor was at 1.28. So when my health factor goes below 1, that person will repay my $7 and it will get my HBAR balance as a reward for himself. And they also get some bonus on that, which we call liquidation bonus. And again, so if you don't have a lot of money to, let's say if you don't have $7 to repay my loan, you can take a flash loan. So you take the flash loan from Bonzo, you call the liquidation function, you get HBAR, you swap that on Saucer Swap, and then you repay that USDC back to Bonzo. So it's a really cool concept, flash loans and liquidation bots. And we have some nice documentation for that. If you go to docs.bonzo.finance, you will be able to find the liquidation bots documentation. It gives you some starter templates to write your own liquidation bots. So please go and start competing with other people who are liquidating people on Bonzo.
Gaurang, I've just got a really quick question here. I'm not sure if you know. I do like a sort of bi-weekly live stream called Hashgraph Hustlers, where we build cool stuff live. We do vibe coding. We had an awesome guest from Coinbase last week. We've had some really great guests on. I would love to offer you an invite to join one of these streams, and we can maybe do some of this stuff live. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. That would be really cool. We can wipe code a liquidation bot. It might not work, but
we'll try.
We'll try.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's a great idea. Let's do it. Yeah. Cool. So moving on, let's move on to the next section, which is Bonso Vaults. And just so you know, this is still under development. We are almost done with the smart contracts, and we will be sending them for audits next week. So yeah, this is still under development, but we are really excited about this. So Bonzo Vaults is essentially based on BFI protocol. So BFI protocol helps you automate your yield strategies. It can help you compound your assets and the yield on that, and it does auto harvesting as well. So let's get into the details about what that means. And yeah, so the Bonzo Vaults, it gives you liquidity on autopilot. So you can automate the management of your liquidity across Hedera. And why we are excited about this and why we call ourselves the liquidity layer of Hedera is because with Bonzo Vaults, you won't be limited just to the Bonzo protocol, but then you can deal with all the other protocols on Hedera. You can deal with Saucer Swap, you can interconnect with Stader Labs, you can interconnect with HLiquidity and any other protocol on Hedera. And with the vaults, you can maximize your yield. You can do auto compounding, you can do yield loops, you can do leverage as well. So again, we won't be doing that, but other people can actually build those strategies. So we are going to deploy the infra so that other developers can come and start building strategies on top of this infra. You can also bootstrap your liquidity. Let's say you have a new token coming on Hedera. You can bootstrap the liquidity for that token as well with this. So again, open call for developers to come and start building new strategies. Just let your imagination go wild. You can do all sorts of leverage, all these things. No financial advice, but yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
And actually, Gaurang, they've got a really good opportunity to do it in the upcoming hackathons that we're running. So I'm going to speak a bit more to those hackathons just before handing over to Milan. But just to emphasize now, any developers watching saying, okay, cool, I want to do it, maybe I don't have time. You can do this and submit in our tokenization DeFi tracks in the hackathon, and then you'll be killing two birds with one stone. So just wanted to call that out there.
No, so what we can do is we can actually sponsor the hackathon as well in some way, and we can provide just like your CLI tool, we can provide you the guidance to create the strategy and then deploy that on the Ponzo Vaults as well, because this is an open protocol. In the beginning, the strategies that we show on the UI, we will be approving them, but you can build your own smart contracts. You can deploy that on Hedera. You can do all these things. Yeah.
I love that. Gaurang, we're gonna have a lot to talk about offline.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is a sneak peek in the Ponzo Vaults dashboard. It might look quite similar to the Ponzo Lend protocol, but this is fundamentally very different. So what you see here are a number of strategies, right? So again, these are example strategies. None of these are real right now. So the first strategy could be like HBAR and sauce, right? So for example, you supply your HBAR on Bonzo, and then you can actually put that on the Saucer Swap liquidity pool, for example. Or you can do like a looping on HBAR. So you supply your HBAR, you borrow it on Bonzo again, you supply it back, you borrow it back. So you can do like a 2x, 3x loop. That's kind of a leveraged yield loop. You can do it on HLiquidity, you can do it on Wiercx as well. So this is the dashboard and a sneak peek to the actual vault strategy. So here what you see is you see all the metrics about that vault, about that strategy. So what is the TVL in the vault? What is the APY for that vault? What is the daily APY, daily rewards that are going out? Now you can see the historical performance of that vault. What has been the APY, the performance across all the last few months, last few weeks, and all these things. And you can deposit and withdraw your assets into that strategy. So I'll explain to you what that means. So this is like a really cool interface where you can just do it with a click of a button. Cool. So let's get into the architecture of a strategy. Let's look at a simple leveraged strategy for HBAR-X token. So we call it leveraged LST yield strategy. LST is a liquid staking token like HBAR-X. So yeah, let's start. So all of these again are smart contracts that you see here. So let's start with the Bonzo Vault contract. So there are two main contracts in Bonzo Vaults, which is the Bonzo Vault contract, which is like a parent contract, like a wrapper on the actual strategy contract. And then you have the Wiercx leverage strategy, which holds all the logic for the strategy itself. So the common interface where you enter the strategy is by calling the deposit function on the Bonzo Vault. Again, you approve your Wiercx tokens and you call the deposit function. And then it will in turn call the deposit function on the Wiercx strategy. So this is where the fun starts. The strategy itself, it will call the deposit function on the lending pool of Bonzo, as we saw earlier. So in this case, what's happening though is you as a user are not depositing on Bonzo, right? You're depositing your tokens into the Vault contract, and the Vault and the strategy contracts are actually deploying on the Bonzo Finance. They are depositing on Bonzo Finance, sorry. So what's happening here is multiple users like this person can actually deposit their tokens into the strategy, and the strategy will be like so what Bonzo Finance sees is a single user. So the Bonzo Finance will see that this one strategy, this one account ID, this one contract ID has deposited all these tokens. But the users themselves are depositing into the strategy contract, right? So when you deposit your Wiercx in the strategy contract, it will in turn deposit on Bonzo. And now this is a really smart thing to do. When you deposit your Wiercx, you will borrow H bar. And since both should be in parity, most of the times you can borrow a lot of H bar right now against your Wiercx. Then what you'll do is you'll go and stake that H bar on Stader Labs contract, and you will again deposit that Wiercx on Bonzo. Here, what's happening is you're getting a leverage on your Wiercx. And all of this, again, is happening in the same block. So you just call the deposit function on the strategy, and the strategy internally handles all the complications for you. It does all these things, and what you get again is called a vault share. You get a new token, ERC20 token called BV Wiercx. And this token represents your share in the vault. So as I said, multiple people will be depositing into the vault. You get your tokens, which is a share of that all the deposits, and then you'll also get part of the auto compounding yield on this. And now what happens is there's another function called harvest function. So every time someone deposits or withdraws, or we have a cron job running, so every 10 minutes, the harvest function is called. The harvest function will do all these things again. It will auto compound your yield, and it will claim all the rewards. And that way, what happens is you don't need to go and keep compounding, doing this action manually all the time. The harvest function will do it for you, and it will keep on compounding your gains on your Wiercx. So you're not doing it manually, you are getting like a lot of APY. So let's say the Wiercx APY is 5%. With this strategy, you might be able to get 8-9% on this just by depositing it into the vault. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Cool. So I don't have a lot of time, so let's get into the last section, which is Bonso Bridge. And Bonso Bridge, again, it's not our own bridge. We are actually integrating, we are creating a UI to help the ecosystem, to help the community. And this UI will be connected with the layer 0 OFT contracts. It's not just Bonzo again, it's we are working alongside the Hashgraph DeFi Alliance, SaucerSwap, and other partners to make sure that we ensure the alignment around these new canonical assets coming on Hedera. And as you might have seen, there was a proposal on SaucerSwap V2 DAO to create pools for WH and WBTC. And these have been brought over to Hedera using layer 0. Will be brought over. So yeah, let's go into a little bit more detail about what is layer 0 and what is OFT. So OFT stands for Omnichain Fungible Token. So this is essentially, to make a long story short, this is a standard to bridge your tokens from one chain to another. As simple as that, right? And what they make sure is when you bridge your WBTC from base to Hedera, the total market cap or total amount of WBTC in circulation should stay the same, right? Because you don't want to be minting more WBTC. That will just dilute the value of WBTC. So there are two mechanisms by which they bridge the assets across chains. So the first mechanism is burn and mint. So you burn your WBTC on base and mint that on Hedera. The second mechanism is lock and mint. So the OFT.sol contract, it does burn and mint, and OFT adapter contract does lock and mint mechanism. So it locks the H bar on Hedera, for example, and it will mint corresponding WH bar on base if you're going out of Hedera, for example. Yeah, this is the sequence diagram. I think I'm running out of time. I'll quickly go through this. So what the user will do is the user will call the send function on the base OFT adapter contract. This is on the base blockchain. This contract in turn will log the WBTC tokens in that contract. The adapter contract will send a cross-chain message to the layer 0 endpoint on base. Again, these two are contracts, corresponding contracts. So we have a layer 0 contract on base and you have a layer 0 contract on Hedera, right? So the adapter contract on base will send a message to the endpoint contract on base. And this will in turn route an off-chain message through their off-chain infra to the Hedera contract. Now the Hedera contract will trigger a function called LZ receive in the HTS connector. So HTS connector is another cool thing that has been built by the Hashgraph team. And see, usually what happens is when people use layer 0, the token that comes on the other chain, it's an ERC20 token, right? So with the original layer 0 contracts, when you call it LZ receive, it will mint a corresponding WBTC on Hedera, which is an ERC20. But in between, we have this HTS connector, which will kind of lock that ERC20, and it will mint an HTS WBTC on Hedera. So what happens is because now the WBTC that is being minted on Hedera is an HTS asset, it becomes compatible with all the protocols on Hedera from the get-go. Because as you might know, the ERC20 support on Hedera is still not there. Yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. Yeah, so we are working on Bonzo points. So we are using Bonzo points actually. So points are the HTS 20 standard, and we use those points to give some rewards to the users on Bonzo. So when you supply or borrow something on Bonzo, you start getting these points. So you get $2 for every $1 supplied, and you get 8 points for every $1 borrowed. And these points are distributed every 24 hours. What we do is we actually mint your points on HCS every 24 hours. And all the people who have borrowed or supplied something on Bonzo get these points. And because we're using HCS, this becomes verifiable and auditable. Unlike other DeFi ecosystems, unlike other DeFi apps, DeFi dApps, their point system are very vague and opaque, right? So they are just giving you points in a database. But what we do is we give you points on the HTS itself, and that makes it completely transparent. So yeah, last slide. So when we were building Bonzo, just to mention this, we definitely had some technical challenges, and that's because Hedera does a very good job of EVM, equivalency, EVM compatibility. But I would say it's still 90% there, 95% there. The last 5% is still a bit painful for a developer. I had to go through all these problems, or front-end developers had to go through all these problems. And I think we are getting there. We're getting close, but it's still not there. So for example, we had problems with the JSON RPC providers. We were using the hash.io endpoint on the testnet, but on mainnet, it wouldn't let us deploy contracts. So the Aave contracts are really big in size. They have thousands of lines of code in them. And these contract sizes were beyond what hash.io allows, for example. They were rate limiting us constantly because when we run the deployment suite on Aave, as I said, we are deploying 30, 40, 50 contracts at a time. And it was rate limiting us. So we had to go with quick node. We had to pay hundreds of dollars there. But I think what has worked for us is the hgraph.io RPC. This is the best RPC right now. And our friends Brandon and Tyler have built this. So please go and check it out. Again, the hard hat and ethers works very well on Hedera. But if you, so for example, when we were using Beefy, they have Foundry. The staking module on Avi also has Foundry and VM. So we cannot use Foundry and VM on Hedera, which is not a big deal, but yeah, it's just a small annoyance. And yeah, Ethers.js and HTS compatibility, it is there again. It works out of the box, but sometimes it doesn't. Right. So we still had to use the Hashgraph SDK on the front end. Because actually Hashgraph SDK is much faster and much more efficient than Ethers.js on Hedera. So Hashgraph SDK works really well. So yeah, we have to use a combination of Ethers.js and Hashgraph SDK, which is okay, but again, a bit annoying. And yeah, Wallet Connect and Hash Connect. So when we were launching Bonso actually last year, it was not very stable. So we had a lot of bugs through it. The community has owned this and built an amazing product, but we still had to deal with those bugs, and it actually delayed the launch of Bonzo a little bit. So for example, if I wanted to give you an example at that time, right? So if you wanted to connect with MetaMask on an EVM chain, it would take you a day or less than a day. But on Hedera, just to do this wallet connect and all these things, or even connect with MetaMask, it can take you up to 6 to 7 days, even for an experienced front-end developer, because the support is there, as I said, it works, but you have to go through the quirks, you have to do a lot of debugging and testing. Yeah, so that's it from me. Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you very much, Gaurang. I just want to quickly call out, so that VM and Foundry, hopefully, I reckon if you try it again, have you tried that recently?
No, I tried it like 2-3 months ago. Yeah,
I'd recommend giving it another go, because definitely, yeah, there has been big changes, and actually, I think with Foundry and definitely VM support, obviously with Hedera Test and Hedera Relays are all there. So I think maybe it's worth double checking over that. But yeah, thank you very much. We'll go over to some questions at the end, and I guess Milan, I'll yeah, come on board. Let's start with a quick introduction, Milan. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Classic. Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me?
Right, all good now. All good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gaurang and Michiel, for your presentations. Really, really interesting. And definitely, Gaurang, I don't know if you have already, but maybe it's something to think of, to reach out to. Maybe Gaurang is gone, but reach out to Danilo from Swap. He was the very first who actually built the Layer 0 contracts, and it was really amazing. Actually won hackathon in December for that. And I know I talked with several engineers, I think on Hedera. It's like, wow, I mean, we had to look into it, and the stuff that he built was really amazing. He's a really great guy, and shout out to him, and obviously also to you guys, what you're doing with Bonzo. All right, I'll jump right in. A little bit about me. I've been in the Hedera ecosystem for about 4.5 years. I started not as a developer, but I wanted to be one, so I learned a lot. I thought, well, let's use no code to program. So literally, it's visual programming, right? You can see it right here how it looks like. I mean, you drag and drop different nodes to each other, and you have programmed something. So I started doing that in 2022, I think. With N8N, I already started maybe 2021, maybe earlier. So it's pretty early. And if you can see right here, I mean, it's been exploding, the no coding part of N8N. I think personally it's because of the AI integration. Where very early they jumped on it, I think 2 years ago. And you can see right here, it goes steadily, and then suddenly in over here, I think it was around end of 2024, there was a huge uptake on the use of N8N. Anyway, I used N8N to win my first hackathon as well, so that was completely done with no code. Currently, recently I got elected for the technical steering committee as a representative of the end user seat. technical steering committee of Hyro. I have been running the HBAR Foundry, which is a grassroots developers community on Hedera. Won several hackathons. I created a peer-to-peer payment system with also the devices. You can tap and pay. Jake and I, as he said earlier, we go way back because we worked together for GoMint with Alex Taylor and Richard McNamara. Very fun time. So we were very early on. It was the very first NFT marketplace on Hedera. It was actually NFTs before NFTs were NFTs. So they were serialized fungible tokens. It was very, very exciting. And yeah, most recently with Acor, I created a healthcare tokenization engine where we also won the hackathon second place, if I remember correctly. So let's just dive in. A lot of stuff. So N8N, it's pretty powerful. It's a pretty powerful no-code tool. It is not open source. They have a it's not open source. They have a special how do you call that, license that I don't fully understand, but basically it means you can self-host it, you can do a lot with it, but as soon as you're an enterprise and you have paying customers, then you need to pay. But if you're not a programmer, if you don't know how to code, this is amazing step up. This is amazing to start out with because you can just visually drag and drop. In the beginning, I used Matt Smitty's from Dovu. I used his one-click deployable API. So you could just click on deploy your client. You connect with GitHub and you deploy in a Versal. And then I had like my own API server for Hedera, and I could use that within N8N. So I used that to win my first hackathon. Also for other people that might know other companies, N8N is like if this then that, which some people you might know, or like Zapier or Make. However, it is way bigger, and you can go crazy with it. I've created huge workflows. I still got workflows running every day, making like 900,000 executions a month. One of them is actually counting the TPS on Hedera, and it's a Telegram channel, so I can just pin it and I can look at it anytime. All right, now why are we here? Because I created a package that you can self install, so you can self-host N8N. For example, here I have hosted it on n8n.milanwr.com. So it's my own website. I just can deploy it. And so I created a package to create Hedera nodes. So instead of using Matt Smitty's, which was really, really cool, but this is also really amazing. Instead of using his API endpoint, I created my own Hedera nodes. I started with it. I would like to ask anybody to just contribute to it because I'm just doing it for fun. And it's not my job. I just do it for fun, and I would love to see people enabled to build on Hedera. And you can definitely do this using this package. So right now, I know there's a lot of talk. You guys want to see some action, so we're gonna look up Hedera in the notes section on the right. I hope everything is. You guys can read it. It's all good. It's not too small.
Milan, just a quick question while you're doing that. So when you searched it, was that something that you had to import, or is it available out of the box for anyone who creates an account?
Yeah, so you can actually go. Go to settings. You go to community nodes, and then you say install, and you type in N8N nodes Hedera, because I've published it to npm.
Yeah.
So you can just type in that, and you click on install, and here it is, right? Right now, I have a little issue with publishing, but I think I have to restart my environment because I made some updates, but they aren't showing, but that's just little details. So yeah, when we add a node, you can see all these integrations. So AWS, Bubble, Calendly. I mean, you can go absolutely crazy in terms of what you can connect. I mean, literally most on Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram. I've used a lot of Telegram integrations with it. But right now, GitHub, right now we are looking for Hedera over here. You can see this little thingy that shows Hedera. And over here, you see a very few functions that I created. So let's just say, so first of all, you need the credentials, right? So you just add a credential right here. I put in the account ID, your private key, and then you select the network. So we have mainnet, testnet, and previewnet. So let's keep it very simple. So what we want to do is we create a new account. We can transfer HBAR. We can create a new account. And yeah, let's set the initial balance at 0 HBAR. And we can just, the trigger will just be us clicking this workflow. Okay, so I'll say test workflow. There you go. And right now you can see here the private key, which should never be visible for anyone listening. But it's testnet, so I can live with it. So you see the account ID, public key, and private key that you get in return. And if we just want to check how that looks like here, so this is right now the account ID that created that new account. I just have to click play, and here you go. This is the one, as you see, it ends with 750. That's the one that you see here, 750. Now, what if we, for example, we transfer HBAR? Let's do that as well. Hedera. So we say transfer HBAR. And what we're going to do is we're going to send HBAR to this new account ID. So imagine like a scenario, right? I mean, I could have it trigger with a WhatsApp message, right? I can trigger it with maybe a Telegram message, or time triggered. Maybe every day at 1 a.m. I decide that I want to create a new account ID. And to that account ID, I also want to send 1 HBAR. So we put 1 HBAR here, 1 HBAR. This is the recipient account ID. And the funny thing is, it's a variable. So every time we execute the whole workflow, this account ID, as you remember, 750 will change and it will send to the new account ID. So we can just test that one. Let's click on test workflow. As you can see here, it's a different one. 750 is now 766. And we transferred 1 HBAR to exactly this account ID. So you can imagine, maybe you add this to Google Sheets, right? You append a row in a sheet and you drag, hey, this new account ID, I want it, well, this is not correct how I do it, but you put it up there. So this is like a quick demo. I also want to show you guys this one. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. So this is something that I just I was experimenting with yesterday night, and I didn't have any time today. Otherwise, I would probably done a little bit more. So I created there's a lot of unnecessary stuff. I created an AI agent, right? An AI agent, and it's very easy to do with N8N. So how that works? So we'll remove this one because that doesn't make any sense right now. We also remove this one. All right. So we start with the AI agent. So this is a tools agent. It's connected to the chat trigger node. So right now we're just chatting with the AI agent. But we can also automate it. We can connect it to WhatsApp. We can connect it to anything we want. Airtable, Google. I mean, sky's the limit here. So what I just said, you're a helpful assistant that helps the user answer questions about Hedera NFTs available via the Hedera NFT market, Syntax.io. So I grabbed the Syntax API. I saw, let me check, markets. So listings. So I've got these. I got this API endpoint market.listings. You get all these variables. So we put that into a tool. So we say, so I have the credentials. Obviously, you need to check with Syntax. You'll get a credential. This is the endpoint. It's a GET request. This is the description that's needed for the AI. So it gets all the listings for a certain token ID on the Hedera NFT marketplace syntax.io. Then I say, then I use the different variables that you saw in the Swagger documentation. You see token, sort by, that I set. So I let everything sort by price. The sort direction is ascending. And then a placeholder definition. So to tell the AI, like, hey, this is actually what every variable is. So here we select the memory. So we can also, there's also other memories available. Different over here, you can MongoDB, whatever you need. Like the OpenAI AI model that I chose, I put my credentials up there. I choose the model, and now let's see if this is gonna work. Because I had some issues here because I tried to give it return me a unsigned transaction and to sign it with my Hedera node, which worked, but I forgot to create a function in the Hedera node that signs and submit it. So it only signs it, which is kind of, come on, Milan. So, well, let's just say, hey, look, what token ID are we gonna, let's just say the first one on syntax, we need to check about, we have the token address, if that's working, never works for me. Then we say like, give me the listings of give me the NFT listings of token ID. That one. Let's see if it works. I hope it does. Dun, 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 dun. Might take some time. So this is extremely quick to set up, right? I spent about 30 minutes with this. And here we go. So we got, here are the current NFT listings, it's a price, sell account ID, and so on. Now, what I will do next, and I can show you how that will work over here. I create a mock transaction thingy. So basically what I say here is give me all the listings of the Smeckham NFTs. Next, I want to buy a specific NFT. So serial number, this one. So I just drag and drop the first number. I just want to buy the lowest NFT. What I get back are the trans bytes, right? The unsigned transaction. Then the code, this is just to put it into base 64 because again, I didn't account for not being base 64 and sign the transaction, right? So basically you can do anything with N8N and you can create any workflow. You can go absolutely, if you're creative and you understand logical workflows, you can build anything. So yeah, that's a quick rundown. Yeah, that's about it, I think.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, what I will just add is, even if you are technical, definitely check out N8N or other similar low-code, no-code platforms. I mean, I had this pathetic sort of little pride ego thing where I was like, nah, I'm a developer. I don't use no-code workflows. And then actually, when I find out N8N was like Milan said, it's not open source, but I think it's got a sustainable use license, which means you can use it. And even for a business, you can use it for internal operations. You just can't use it to generate revenue. But anyway, I tried it. I spun it up locally, and literally, I was like, "Wow, what an idiot to have this petty little pride thing which stopped me from delaying it." But it was really amazing. I mean, Milan, you've done an awesome job, and I know myself, you, and Ash, obviously working really on how can we push this NAN Hedera project even further. So we're done. We've got 5 minutes left. I just want to give a really quick wrap up. Thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully we'll have time for a few questions. But before we go into the questions, just a couple points to wrap up. So hackathons, we are going to be at ETH Cannes. That's in about a week and a half. There's a hackathon going on there. Myself and Michiel are going to be there in person. You can obviously take part in our $10,000 bounty. We're also going to be at We Are Developers, so come speak to us over there. But most importantly, the Hello Future Hackathon series. We've got a trilogy of hackathons, the first of which is going to be starting in mid-July. And that's a 3-week hackathon. There's $150,000 worth of prizes. There's, like I mentioned earlier with Gaurang, we've got tokenization track, tokenization/DeFi. We've got AI track. We've got a sustainability track. And crucially, we have a track for existing developers, a legacy builders track. If you've submitted a project in the past, Milan, I'm talking to you here. If you've submitted a project in the past, you can use that submission and keep on building it in the hackathon. So it's a really good opportunity to further mature your product, and then we can help you bring it to people like the Hedera Foundation. I think on that note, I'll cover one of the questions which I saw. Well, one of them was, are there hackathons planned? Yes. The second one, are there grants working on Hedera? Yes. If you go to hederafoundation.org, or maybe we'll get up the correct link. But you can go over there and you can submit for your grant funding, or even better, you can submit to the hackathon and then use that to carry some weight, bring some oomph when it comes to submitting to the Hedera Foundation. I would recommend doing that. You'll obviously get mentorship from people like myself, Michiel, other community members. Hopefully, Goran, we could do a little partnership with Bonzo as a sponsor. I think we'll definitely investigate that. The other one, which I really want to really quickly share, is there's a QR code top right. My finger's blurry, but the top right, this QR code, it takes you to the Hedera Playground or the Hedera Smart Contract Builder. There we go. Milan's pointing it. Oh, perfect. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we've got some really friendly web user interface applications to actually interact with the Hedera network. Now, it's not quite so easy in some regards as NA10, but also in other aspects it is easy, because you don't have to download a repo or create an account. You just go straight over to those websites and you can start one-click deploying certain code which is already written for you. So for those of you who are new to Hedera, for those of you who want to learn about blockchain, or for those of you who just want to quickly prototype, I use it quite a lot, even though I know all of the SDKs like the back of my hand. Okay, so let's go on to a few questions then. I know we've just got a couple of minutes. Looks like we have one from Alexander. So sorry, joined too late. What is an AI path you have? NAN sound not serious. So yeah, the NAN stuff is serious. I will say it's pretty serious. But for the AI path in Hackathon, I can speak to that. It's I think just any general AI agents for sure, using the Hedera AI agent kit, using the Eliza OS plugin, using the Hedera MCP server. You can use those tools. But also there's quite a popular use case within the AI space, which is of course selling data, selling tokenized data, and how can you prove that the data you've given to a particular user is the real data that you claim it is, without having to give them the actual data, which obviously poses a risk of then maybe selling or profiting off their own back. So there's some zero knowledge proof stuff that sort of you can use for that, but that would also be viable to these submissions. A couple more questions from the community. So we had one from Oris86hbar.eth. How much does tooling like CLI and workflow automation, and this is for you, Michiel, by the way. So how much does tooling such as the CLI and workflow automations actually accelerate DeFi adoption versus the hype around flashy new protocols? It's a really good question.
I think in general, these kind of tools just make it easy for developers to build products on Hedera, and they're also quite key to accelerate adoption. So I think this is also quite an important element to draw in new developers to the space, that want to have a good experience, and also I want to improve the experience of the existing developers. So I think it's quite a crucial element to improving the ecosystem as a whole as well.
Yeah, and I guess just to add to that, Michiel, he spoke about for new developers. Often we find, I mean, there's lots of people in the Web3 ecosystem and outside it. They often have CLI tools as part of their getting started because it's a very simple way to quickly create a token and then go over to Hashscan to check it out. So I think trying to expand that surface area to make sure that we're as appealing to a wide range of developers is a really important part. But also, as Michiel showed earlier, the robustness when it comes to writing scripts, the easiness of auditing stuff, rather than having to go through thousands of lines of JavaScript code and 500 different files, can also have an advantage. I know we're really tight for time here. Gaurang, I had one question for you. Well, I had many questions for you, but I'm going to stick on this one. You mentioned, of course, the differences between EVM and how it brought some challenges. On the flip side, because we are different, we've got some very unique services like the Hedera schedule service, which, are you familiar with that service?
Yeah, scheduled transactions, right.
I'm just quite interested in hearing what your thoughts are on the schedule service, obviously the ability to basically do schedule transactions on-chain rather than do off-chain cron job. How does that, what potential does that bring to maybe separate a company like Bonzo from other EVM chains? What are your thoughts about that?
No, those are really interesting concepts, and we actually explored using them. But the problem is when you look at a very complex code base like Aave, I didn't really want to mess with it, So, and see the cron jobs that we're running. So with Ponzo, with Aave, we don't have a lot of scheduled transactions. So the cron jobs we are running are mainly for like points systems or like other small things that are happening on the periphery, It's not for the main core contracts. But yeah, so we are actually exploring some AI things with Bonzo. So we are trying to create like an NPM package for Bonzo, which can be used with Hedera Agent Kit. And that's something where we can use the scheduled transactions. So I've been speaking with Michiel Kanter, and we are exploring some really cool aspects there. Yeah.
Amazing. I think that's really great. We'll wrap up now. We're a few minutes over time. I just want to say again, final thanks to Gaurang, Milan, Michiel for joining us today. We've had an awesome session. There's going to be a lot for people to sit back and unpack on because there's been so much diversity of thought here. But yeah, big thanks to everyone. And I guess, guys, thank you all for joining as well. Check out that QR code for the Hedera Playground. And I think from me, that's everything.
Okay, thanks for having us. Bye,
Take
guys.
care. Bye-bye.
All right.
From the very beginning, there was a dream for a trust layer for the digital future. But in 2012, the technology to achieve such a vision simply did not exist.
It really should be possible for anyone to just kind of wave their hand and carve out a piece of cyberspace and create a world of their own.
3 years later, in 2015, the hash graph consensus algorithm was born. In the same year, Mance and Lehman founded Swirlds to bring Hashgraph to life. In August 2018, the Hedera mainnet goes live, minting 50 billion HBARs.
We are about to launch the Hedera mainnet and mint 50 billion HBARs. There will never be another HBAR. This is it. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's do it. All right. That's it. Congratulations. Yep. Mainnet is live.
In 2019, we announced the Hedera Council to help govern the network, ensuring stability, decentralization, and responsible decision-making globally. On February 13, 2020, Hedera Consensus Service launches on mainnet, marking a new era. 1 year later, Hedera Token Service enabled native tokenization on the Hedera network. With billions of real-world transactions, Hedera has begun to cement itself as a leader in enterprise blockchain. To continue its impact in the digital economy, Hedera creates Stablecoin Studio, an open-source toolkit helping organizations integrate stable digital currencies seamlessly. Through another toolkit, Asset Tokenization Studio is helping making asset tokenization seamless, scalable, and secure. Hedera has taken a bold step forward by contributing its codebase to the Linux Foundation's Decentralized Trust initiative and introducing the Hedera Foundation and Hedera Council, realigning our ecosystem to unlock greater clarity, leadership, and purpose. Looking ahead, Hedera continues to lead with tokenization, digital economies, and beyond. What future will you build?